This letter, it's going to be on page Kuf Chaf Hey, probably equal to page 249. This letter is probably one of the last public letters that the Alter Rebbe wrote. He wrote it in 1810. As you know, he passed away in 1812. And this is one of the last public ones. This one is written about 6 years or so after the last letter. No, probably about 16 years after the last letter, because the last one we read was, I think, written in 1794. It was like 16 years later. The last letter we learned was written to a particular community that was going through struggles, and he addressed their struggles. And we're going to pick off on one of the themes that we finished off with. Remember, these letters were put together by his sons after his passing. These are letters he wrote. This particular letter was given to what's called a shadar. A shadar is the Rebbes in general had messengers. They would send around to collect money for the causes. The money was for, in this case, for Israel. And the shadars are famous. They would go around. We have it in our time too. One of the famous ones, Rabbi Reichik in California. They would go around collecting money. And all the money went to fund the projects that the Rebbe was working on, whether it was sending it to Russia to help the people in Russia, whether it's to buy matzahs for people for Pesach. The Rebbe had these funds. This is a letter he gave to this shadar, to this person. When you go from town to town, show him this letter that I wrote. It was a public letter, but it was to be shared as you went through. That was the way it was shared. The letter actually has a whole beginning and a whole end. That's not in here. When the sons put it into the Tanya to make it part of the Tanya after his passing, not only trimmed the letter, but they actually cut this word. The first word here is noida. Actually, originally was uken noida, and as it's known. But you don't start a letter with and as it's known. So they start off noida, it's known. So and as they took off. So the word ukenoida really became, the word noida used to be ukenoida. The end of the part they cut off, and the ending they cut off as well. What's here is a beautiful letter. And what makes this letter unique from the previous discussions, and each letter has its thing, this talks about the reward for tzedakah. So it's a very beautiful letter writing about the reward. It's going to address a few fundamental topics in Judaism, in Yiddishkeit. But one of the things that it's unique from the previous times, you mentioned benefits. We had mentioned in the past benefits of tzedakah. But all those benefits were focused on things you get in this world, in my lifetime. There's blessings. Hashem it helps us, remove sins or give us a greater reward. Hashem reciprocates, etc. Here we're going to talk about a benefit that comes after a person passes away. And that's when we get into the second topic we'll have in this chapter, is he says, Elam Haba, in the world to come. What does Elam Haba mean? Simply speaking, Elam Haba means we are now living in this world. When a person passes away, they go to the world to come. It's Gan Eden. Usually when we say Elam Haba, the world to come, we talk about the Garden of Eden. You go to this place, it's a spiritual world. Souls are basking in the beauty and the love and the happiness, and there's no taxes, and there's no political arguments. It's just beautiful life, and there's nothing. You don't have to get distracted. Just good. But the truth is that is not, as we're going to see. We're not going to get into it now. It's not going to be the technical term we mean here. We mean here something different. Elam Haba means the world of Mashiach. The world, not just of Mashiach. Mashiach itself has stages. There's the first 40 years of Mashiach when things will go pretty much the same it is now. After 40 years, you have the revival of the dead. Besides great tzaddikim, most people will get up after 40 years. You got to get sort of into the zone of Mashiach before you start bringing the crowds back. So 40 years in starts a whole new era, the world to come after the world of revival of the dead. It's called after Olam Atchiyah, the world of people coming back to life, physical bodies. That's what we're talking about. He's talking about that world, the world of Olam Atchiyah, when we come back here, and it's an unbelievable experience. You get to meet Bubby and Zaidi, and you get to meet people you haven't seen before. You get to see the authors of the Mishnah, the authors of the Talmud, the 12 tribes, So he's talking about the reward that's going to come then. What's unique about that reward? And we're going to go into it. I'm just giving some general thoughts now, just to give us a state of mind, state of where we are. There's a big difference in rewards that are given as incentives and tools versus awards that are given as the job is done, now you're getting payment. In other words, if I want to hire somebody or have a kid who's growing up or student or whatever to do certain things, it's a good idea to apply or provide them with two things they need. So let's say I want to have a person that's going to be a delivery person for me. It's good to get him a car. The nicer the car, the better the mood. Get him a nice car. Get him maybe you do a GPS system. Things they need. Someone's in this world. Hashem should give you good health, family. It's very hard to have a Shabbos table when you have had a headache, so you have a medical issue, or you have a kid that's making trouble. So that's one type of not reward, but it's a benefit. Another one is just simple incentives. Besides that's the tools you get. I need stuff. Besides that, there's incentives. You know what Hashem says? If you do this, I'm going to provide you with a better income. I'm going to provide you with good friends. You're going to have a chance to take vacations. You're going to have a nice house. You're not going to have headaches. You're not going to have, distractions. So you have benefits and rewards that come as the process of doing life. Then the job is done. I built you a house. I'm a contractor. I'm done. I know while I was here, sometimes you provide them. You bring them snacks. You bring them stuff. You bring them flowers. The job is done. Now they pay you. Here you get the full payment for the job. That's what we're talking about now. We're focused not on the technical rewards or tools or things that we need in this world or incentives. We're talking now, the job is done. Okay, pay up, meaning in a positive, friendly way, good way. That's what we're going to focus on. That's a much bigger type of reward, because until now, I'm just getting incentives. It's small stuff, here to help you along. We're going to give you, sometimes you have a person in your house who's helping you out or working, and you have your lunch, you'll make lunch for them too. Even not having lunch, to make lunch for them. You'll provide them with, it's raining outside, you say, take my umbrella. Why? It's just a way to treat someone nicely, and they get a better relationship. You have better product, better service. Or you could give a bunch of thanks. Here's a tip. Here's a tip. But at some point, the job is done. You got a payment. That's what we're talking about. Okay. Another thing to know here. Okay, the next thing I'll go into in a second, in a moment. Let's start. Let's start this letter. So page 1, it's Kuf Chav Hey, 125 in the Hebrew, or 249 in the English. Noida Yud Zayin, letter number 17. And again, the Alter Rebbe wrote this. It's a public letter to all the Jewish people. Noida is known, the Besarusto de Sata, with an awakening from below. Now, this is a word that we use a number of times. It's going to mean something a bit different here, so I just want to explain what it usually means and what it means here. The Besarusto de Sata, in general, we have in life two ways we process inspiration, or two ways that we do things. I'll give you an example. I'm out of shape. It's not an example. That's for real. I'm out of shape. Okay. I'm in shape, but not the good shape. Not the shape I should be in. I once saw a picture. It's an avocado looking in the mirror. He says, I'm fat, but it's the good type of fat. It's the healthy fat. I'm out of shape. Now, there are two things that could motivate me to get into shape and start eating healthy and exercising and cutting out some beverages I don't need. Number one could be, I'm thinking to myself, life, and I'm sort of feeling, and I guess I decide, you know what? I got to work on myself. I sometimes feel a little tired. I start deciding I'm going to be healthy, etc. Sometimes something can happen. You watch a good friend of yours, God forbid, have a attack, a stroke, whatever, a heart attack, God forbid. And it's an outside event. Or you see someone who was very heavy and lost a lot of weight. And you go, wow. You decide, I got to do that. It didn't come from within. The same thing in general we talk about, when it comes to serving Hashem, there are two ways that we suddenly make an inspirational change. I'm going to start coming to classes. I'm going to start more careful with kosher. I'm going to stop talking in shul. One of two ways it happens. Either you on your own got that inspiration. I was learning some stuff. I was reading about this. I got inspired to change. I'm going to stop talking in shul. I'm going to start giving more tzedakah. I'm going to be more careful with benching, whatever. Sometimes God, in his kindness, will send down an experience to you. You don't know where it came from. Why? We say a lot of times it comes as an experience. It means the Rebbe was thinking about you today. I suddenly feel like I want to get back aboard. Somebody I was just talking to recently told me for years in his life he never felt inspiration to go to the Rebbe's resting place. Never felt it. Never. Any tzaddik for that matter. I had no interest ever. I don't know what it is. In the last year or two, I just have such a need and desire to go. And he actually went recently. And an unbelievable experience. What happens? Sometimes it's because you started putting on tefillin and you started reading more things, and you start changing inside yourself. Sometimes, I don't know what happened. I just got inspired. And that could happen in one of two ways. An event could happen that Hashem can cause, and you should see what happened, let's say, God forbid, October 7th, or you're in a place where the house blows up and no one passes away. Some crazy story happens. Or it could be a random, God sends him that's a sound effect, it's not real. God sends down into your existence a sudden inspiration. Usually when we say Isarusa del Sata, which means an awakening from below, Isarusa means awakening, the Sata means from below, or Isarusa, an awakening to the Elah from above, that's what we're referring to. What caused me? And that's the whole thing we talk about, the month of Elul. The month of Elul, the king's in the field. He comes and inspires you, and you come back and you come involved with Rosh Hashanah. You start working on yourself. Or I start the whole discussion. Who starts? Anila Deidi v'Deidi. Is my beloved to me not my beloved, or is Deidi li Anila, or is my beloved inspire me? How is the relationship working with a husband and wife? Who inspired who suddenly to get closer to each other? Does the husband suddenly say to the wife, I love you and everything you do is so wonderful? Or does the wife say, you're such a great guy, and then suddenly they start complimenting each other? Oh, how beautiful! Who started it? That's usually what we say when we say Sarus Satis Layla. That's what we mean in our inner self, in our service to Hashem, etc. Here we're talking about another type of thing. The awakening that we can do to inspire God to do something for us. Not to do something for us like awaken us, but to respond with this tremendous blessing or benefit or payment or reward. That's what he starts off here. Noider is known. The Bisarusa de Losata was an awakening from below. When a person goes and awakens within himself a mercy, a feeling, a pity, a empathy for someone who is poor, someone who doesn't have food to eat, that is isarusa de l'eda, that awakens by Hashem a reciprocating blessing to you, to give you everything. Later Allah, to give you mimakar from the source of mercy. A lot of words we got to explain here. Which he's going to give you from the source of all mercy, a abundance of fruit, payers of fruit. We'll see what that means in a minute. In this world, and a primary reward in the world to come. What's going on here? So first of all, the Alter Rebbe says something which Rebbe points out, something phenomenal. He doesn't say you gave tzedakah. I just had mercy. I felt for the guy. The fact that you feel someone else's need. You see, there's two possibilities when you pass someone who's in need. I'm not talking about someone on the street that, harasses you. I'm talking about someone in need. You know the story, that guy's out looking for drugs. The guy he lost his house, he lost his money, lost his job. And you feel a need that you want to help the guy out. Before you even help the person out, before you even gave them $1, before you went to your house, the fact that you awaken within yourself a mercy and compassion, that itself is an incredible experience and truth. In general, in Yiddishkeit, we always have two halves of the story. There's a half of the story, the effect that I have in transforming the world, and that could be by making a bracha on a piece of cake. It could be by using a wine for Kiddush Friday night, making a candle for the Shabbos candles. And it could be by providing someone in need, giving someone a ride in the car, visiting someone who's sick, etc., visiting someone who's lonely. Those are all things that I'm impacting the world. That's one job of the mitzvahs. It's called Avodas Habarim, elevating the world. Then we have another part of the world. It's really called Avodas HaNisyonos, the challenges, but it's really, how do I respond to it? It's not about the thing. It's not about me changing the world. It's about the world changing me. I say the world, I mean the experience changing me. How did I experience it? So for an example, one of the great examples you have of having guests, being kind to guests, is a farce. Avraham Avinu goes, these guests come into his house, he feeds them. Oh, he was the greatest host. It was a Baba Maisa. These guys were angels, they never ate the food, they pretended to eat. The whole thing was a scam. Imagine you go hunting and you shoot blanks and you don't shoot the deer, or the deers are fakes. You shoot fake targets. You didn't do anything. It's fake. But it doesn't matter. You know why? Because having guests is two halves of the story. There's feeding the guy who's hungry, and you expressing kindness and empathy and compassion and love and mercy and kindness to someone who needs it. So he says the fact that you awoke this inside yourself is already half the story, and that already is a reward. Whether or not you end up going, could be a time you went to get the food, the guy disappeared. I went inside to get the money. I went to the bank to get cash. The guy was gone. I didn't do the mitzvah. You already transformed your life because you're already awoken and changed, and in yourself you experience this tremendous kindness. So that is the first thing. And a person, even before he does an act of kindness, even before he gives the money, the fact that you're awoken within, or you awoke, or awaken, whatever the word is, you awoke within yourself a compassion, a mercy. Hashem already is going to reciprocate. And what's the reciprocation going to be? We spoke in the past that we have two types of Hashem's compassion. He's sometimes called of Harachaman, and sometimes we say on Shabbos of Harachamim. What's the difference? One is the Father of mercy, who's within the realm of checks and balances and process, how kind he is. And of Harachamim means not the mercy in the process, but above process. No cheshbon. I'm in a mood now. I just won $1 billion. My kid just got engaged. I had my first grandchild. I'm not even thinking it. Take it. What does it mean? I'm in a mode now that I'm not using a logic who I'm giving to or what I'm giving to. I'm just giving. you tap into that Makar Harachim, the source where God doesn't check and say, okay, how much you really deserve, how much you really earn. No, boom, he just gives you. And that's what you tap into. That's first of all. Second of all, the process he gives it to you, it's called fruit and the Karen. What's a fruit? We say it every day in the morning brachas, after we say the bracha and blessing of the Torah, and we say the blessing of the Kahanim, that we say the first Mishnah of the chapter, the first Mishnah of the first chapter of the tractate Peah. Peah is the laws of a field. When someone has a field, how they have to leave tithing for the separating parts for the poor, leaving for the poor, etc. The first Mishnah says these are the mitzvahs that you receive the reward in this world and the world to come. And these mitzvahs, he said, you get the fruit in this world and the karen, the main reward in the world to come. There's something incredible about fruit that it doesn't diminish the tree. If you have a tree and someone's taking fruit from it, and you say, hey, you're using up the tree. No, you're not. I'm using the fruit. Because next year, the fruit will give more. It's not like, you can't use up a tree. In other words, the peiros are the benefits we get from a mitzvah that we're not going to get the reward till Mashiach comes. When Mashiach comes, we're getting the reward. So in this world, we benefit. And the Alter Rebbe says here right now what those benefits are. It's beautiful. And he says, what are these benefits? Listen to this. And he said, the rest we're going to get, the Karen, Olam Haba, again, referring to later in the chapter, in the letter, referring not to the world to come, God hidden, the world to come, when Mashiach comes and the revival of the dead. You're going to have then unbelievable rewards. Unbelievable. You're going to get, you're stocking up now a paycheck. That's unbelievable. Sometimes people work, they want to get paid every week or every day. As the guy says, I'll pay me when the job is done. The job is done. Give me, it's $4 million. I want to hold, a dollar every 2 hours. Give me $1 million when the job is done. Pirish, the next one he says, what's the peiros? Hi hashpa hanishpas. It's a beautiful thing. It is the flow. Hashpa means like shefa, the flow. It is that flow of blessings that comes from Mokar harachimim v'chaya chayim baruchu. It comes from the source of mercy. He says the same expression again as a line before. Mokar harachimim, the source of God's mercy, which is above shtalshlus. V'chaya chayim baruchu, and the source of life. V'nimsheches lo mata, and it comes all the way down. The trickle down. Reagan used to trickle down economics. If you get better here, it trickles down. And this benefit, these fruit, these benefit that you're going to get from this mitzvah, not only are you getting the big reward in the future, you're going to get now in your lifetime. What is it? He's going to say, children, health, and parnasa. There are three things that a person needs in life that help them be happy people. They don't make you happy. It helps you have happiness. If you have, actually, I say the kids actually bring you happiness, but one is having good health and long life. That's one thing. Second thing is children, that you should have children that should be healthy and happy and all the blessings you want to have from our children. And the third thing is parnas. I should have enough money to buy and do the things I need to do in life, not to worry about it, not to stress at night. How am I going to keep my rent, my mortgage, etc.? So he says these are physical benefits you have. So you do a mitzvah. Of course, you're going to get spiritual blessings in the world to come. You're going to have all these stuff, and you're going to have, all the whatever. I don't know what happens there. It says that our minds don't know what this means because we're living in a world where everything is translated and seen through the lenses of our understanding what we see. A guy who never saw color, a guy who never heard music, and a guy who never heard sound at all, he's deaf, a guy who's blind, and trying to somehow communicate to them. Remember, how are you going to communicate? They can't hear and they can't see. You're going to communicate in the most primitive ways to them and try and communicate to them what's going to happen. It's like, and you want to tell them about music. They don't even know what you're talking about because you're touching their hand or you're feeling them. It's like, what could you communicate already? Sometimes you look back on the story of Helen Keller. How did was she blind also, right? Mm-hmm. She was blind and mute and deaf or whatever. Yeah. How did such a person communicate anything? It's just years of slowly picking up information, etc. But what could you explain about music to that person? Not the language you understand. Even if the person could hear, even if the person could talk, they wouldn't know what is art, what is pictures, what is colors. And the same thing, even if they could write, you can't explain music. We once talked about a while ago that someone who never ate food in their life and was living on IV their whole life, and you start telling them, by the way, when you get out of the hospital, they're going to actually chop up food and feed it to you. But why would I want to do that? No, they're going to take that mushy food and you'd go down. Why would I want that disgusting? No, a steak, a flavor, a tea, a coffee, a pastry, a cheese Danish, a crepe, a blintz. And the guy's like, I don't know, it just sounds nauseous. You can't relate to it because you never experienced it. You don't understand the sensation, the aroma, the flavor, so we're talking about a world that to us, it's like, has no value to me. Of course, there's value to you because you know what it is. But that world, that's the big one. The small, tiny little pieces, the fruit. What do we get? Healthy family, children, health, parnasa, etc. So he says that's the benefit that you get from what? Arousing within yourself mercy. So what are we talking about when we say here is Sarosa Dosata, the awakening from below? We awaken within Hashem something that is going to give us such an abundance in the future. That's what we're going to focus on in this chapter. Yeah, we get today all the good stuff too. Yeah, that's no problem. This includes, no, I'm just kidding. And so moving along, just to recap real quickly. So we're basically discussing chapter 17. It's a letter the Alter Rebbe wrote in 1810, one of his last public letters about giving tzedakah. And the main point of this chapter is going to be about the benefit that comes not in this world, but in the world Mashiach comes, that when Mashiach comes and we have the revival of the dead, we're going to see a tremendous benefit. The primary benefit, the small stuff is today that we can have health and family, etc. The big stuff when Mashiach comes, and that's a reciprocating act from our mercy that we have from someone else. That's more or less what we said until now. Now, and he said, the fruit that we have today, that little stuff we have today, it comes down and it closes itself. That means this great makar achayim, the arousal. We touch something. We inspire. Sometimes you have certain words that are triggered. And we're going to explain. We're going to go back to triggering soon, because a trigger is a very weird thing. The person might have said the smallest thing. I just mentioned to my wife that her mother and her, they have the same personality. Well, what's wrong? It's a compliment. She's such a nice person. Suddenly, in my case, it's a compliment for sure. But I just said one thing that you're just like your mother, and it triggers that, especially if there was an issue that happened. You could say one line to a person and trigger a whole thing. What you think about it? It's one line. So, by the way, connected to the time that we're living in today. This is off topic, but it's a very important topic. It talks about the students of Rabbi Akiva, and it says we explain that they died because they didn't respect each other. So how could they didn't respect each other? They were the students of Rabbi Akiva, the great rabbis. They were students of the man who still love your fellow man as yourself, is the whole Torah. This is everything. And the Rebbe explains that what they did really was, it was a slight imperfection, didn't give enough space to understand there's more than one path, and they try and impose their way. Like if I'm a vegetarian, you should be a vegetarian. If I don't smoke, you shouldn't smoke. If I don't drink Diet Coke, you should. I just, because of my love, I cared so much about the person, and it makes it the whole thing was just a small thing. That's why they died. If it was such a small little nuance, so Rebbe Nasicha says, you know why they died? The number 24 is a dangerous number. 240 is even more dangerous. 2,400 is even more dangerous. 24,000 is boom. It's like a giant thing of dynamite. You might say, I did one little spark. I took a lighter. It was nothing. I did a little click. Why? It wasn't what they did. That's why it says they died the Perek Echad, the one time. It was the time they were in the 24,000. They reached the 24,000 student. You should have got a 25th, one more, 2401 quickly. Never have 24 of anything. Always get 25 or 26 or 23. 24, and especially times 10 or times 1,000, is a powder keg. Nothing could happen, but the smallest thing could trigger it. So what we're saying here is a person's act triggers above such a response that when Mashiach comes, we're going to see what this means. But meanwhile, we have the fruit. That's what we're saying here. Okay. And the fruit is Bonei Chayim Ezenei. But the primary reward, the main reward, it says in the last line, we say chapter 119 in Tehillim, it's divided into two halves, for the 25th of the month and 26th of the month. The last line, which is verse 96, says, your mitzvah is very wide. And with this chapter, we're going to explain the word very. What do you mean very wide? What do you mean wide? Shouldn't you say big? And what do you mean mitzvah? Your mitzvah should be your mitzvahs. And we're going to go and explain all these things. We're just going to focus on the one word now. And this is going to be probably the rest of this class for today. He's focusing on this one word because it's fascinating. He says, the first question we have is, one second, the Alter Rebbe is sort of going on a tangent to get back to this. It says, your mitzvah is very wide. So what wide means, we'll get to. Seems I should have said this big. What does it mean, very? What do you mean, very? It's wide. What's very? And it's very, very maybe? But what does the word very add and qualify? What does it qualify? But let's focus on the word your mitzvah. Shouldn't you say your mitzvahs are very wide? So he says, also, he says in parentheses, the word rechava doesn't seem to make sense. What do you mean wide? It's a wide mitzvah. So we see like this, your mitzvah refers to the mitzvah of tzedakah. Your mitzvah of tzedakah, God, is very, very wide. It's very something. So the question we want to ask now is, we'll finish off with, why is the mitzvah of tzedakah called your mitzvah? Doesn't Hashem, and it says why, again, it's reciprocating to our mitzvah. The question is, doesn't Hashem do all the mitzvahs? It says that anyone who listened to the Bar Mitzvah Maimer, in our show we heard like 1,000 times, and we had it in many places also. The first Maimer the Rebbe gave out, he spoke about this as well, that when we do something, it says, Magid Dvarav li Yaakov, Hashem tells his words to Yaakov, his commandments and his laws to the Jewish people. But it says his mitzvahs and his commandments. What does that mean? So it's explained in Chassidus that when we do a mitzvah, Hashem does the same mitzvah. So, for example, when we put on tefillin, Hashem puts on tefillin. We keep Shabbos, Hashem keeps Shabbos. We eat kosher, Hashem eats kosher. What does that mean? Each thing's explained different what it means. By the mitzvah of tefillin, it says, what's the mitzvah of tefillin? Just an example. The mitzvah of tefillin is all about, we put on the tefillin that says you should love the Lord your God, and talk about the greatness of Hashem, love Hashem with all your heart and all your might. Hashem feeds us and sustains us, etc. Hashem's tefillin that says you should love the Jewish people with all your heart. And you should sustain and how wonderful they are. So we put on tefillin, Hashem puts on tefillin, he focuses on how great we are. Meaning, we focus on Hashem's greatness, Hashem focuses on our greatness. The question is, Hashem does every single mitzvah we do. Why is it your mitzvah? Hashem does all the mitzvahs. What do you mean Hashem does one mitzvah? So there's three general answers given. What's the mitzvah of tzedakah unique from all the other mitzvahs? The first difference is, all the other mitzvahs are done when a particular time happens. For example, Hashem right now is doing the mitzvah of tefillin. So it's a specific thing. Right now, Hashem is doing the mitzvah of Shabbos, doing the mitzvah of kosher. Tzedakah, Hashem is constantly doing it. It's the mitzvah that is a constant thing by Hashem, constantly recreating the world, constantly giving us life force. It's a constant behavior. Hashem's tzedakah is just giving and giving to the world. That's first of all. Another thing that's unique about tzedakah is not just, when Hashem does all the other mitzvahs, Hashem does them in a spiritual form. Hashem doesn't actually go and wrap tefillin. Okay? He doesn't have arms, he doesn't have straps, he doesn't have tefillin, he doesn't put them on. Hashem doesn't actually light Shabbos candles. Hashem doesn't actually go and, free the, whatever the example be, send the mother bird away. But Hashem does actually the physical world do tzedakah. He actually gives us rain. He actually makes the sun shine and gives us the vitamin D and the health and the minerals for the plants and the trees. He actually makes the oxygen flow. He actually makes our bodies function, which means that tzedakah is an actual thing Hashem is constantly doing. So unlike the other mitzvahs that are only spiritual, the world of tzedakah, Hashem actually does in the physical world. And the third thing that's unique about tzedakah is something amazing. Every other mitzvah, Hashem reciprocates. What does it mean? It says when we put on tefillin, Hashem puts on tefillin. Do this mitzvah, Hashem does that mitzvah. Not by tzedakah. Tzedakah, actually, Hashem does it before we ask him. We didn't do anything. We didn't do something. Hashem went and created the world. Hashem went and gives rain. Hashem went and gave the sustenance. And there's a famous story about I forget who was with her. I forget who was with. There's some tzaddik that he was in a town, and no, sorry, he had a king who was visiting him. He was a big tzaddik king that came to visit him, and a person came with a fight. What was the fight? That a guy dug in his backyard and found the treasure, and he had just bought his property from another guy, and he bought the property last year from someone else, and he finds in the digging backyard, he finds the treasure. So they come to the rabbi with a fight. One guy says, "I found the treasure. It's not mine. It wasn't the property I bought from him. I didn't put it there. He owned it before me. It's his treasure. I want to give the treasure to him." And the other guy says, "No, I sold the house, sold the property, whatever goes in it. It's the trees, it's the stuff. You get everything. I sold the property. If you find a rock, whatever you find is yours. I didn't put the treasure there either. It came before." And they're arguing. The rabbi looks at them. He says, "You have a son. You have a daughter. Make them get married and give the treasure to them as a wedding gift." So the king says, "Are you guys crazy? In my town, I would have flogged a man, flogged both neighbors, and taken the chest to the king's coffer. What do you mean? You guys are nuts." So he asked them, "Does the sun shine in your city? Does the rain come down in your city?" That's Hashem's kindness. I think the Moshe says is Hashem does that for the animals. He probably does it for the animals, not for you guys. It's not for you. But Hashem does kindness even when we don't deserve it. We look always at Hashem does good and bad for people. There's a person have an easy life or a hard life. Some people have tzara, some people have tragedies, and some people have blessings. But there's much more. There's the sun, and there's the rain, and there's the oxygen, and your life flow, and your chemistry, in your body, and the whole way you function. It's a constant blessing. Hashem's chesed is 24/7, even when we don't do the mitzvah. That's the second reason why mitzvah is different. And the third reason why it's different is, that was the third one. First one was because it's constantly. Second one because it comes out of Gashmis. And third one because it comes without our inspiration. It's not a reciprocation mitzvah. Okay, those three. Let's just finish this line here. Ella mitzvahs chadaika, he mitzvahs hatzdaka, she mitzvahs Hashem mamish. The mitzvah of tzedakah is unique from all the other mitzvahs. All the mitzvahs that Hashem does. But this is Hashem's mitzvah unique, as we said before, the three reasons. There's other reasons given too. The essence of Hashem is involved much more, but this is the primary differences. He says, this is what Hashem himself does, constantly, to give life to the worlds. That means the worlds exist. But when Mashiach comes, you're going to have this on a whole nother level. This gift that Hashem has of giving tzedakah, of giving kindness, that we awaken. Again, this is just that you felt the mercy. You saw a poor man and you felt compassion. This is going to listen by Hashem. A response is unbelievable. You guard. This is a line taken from Avraham Avinu. When Avraham Avinu is going to Sodom and he's going to pray, and Hashem says, "Should I hide from Avraham what I'm going to do?" He's the one who's commanded his children to go in the path of God. V'shomer, he says about the Jews, they're going to go in the path of Hashem. Where's the pasuk here? It says they're going to go in the path of Hashem. He says, what does it mean, the path? There's something called a road between cities. What happens is you have a city here and you have a city here. No distribution. This guy is manufacturing the bread and the challah, and this is making the potatoes and the eggs, but you can't share it. What happens is you have a road, and that road becomes the conduit. How you go from one place to the other. How could you deliver the bread to city number 2 and the eggs to city number 1? It's because of the road. He says this the road. That's the tzedakah. When you do this is Hashem's road that Hashem has, a path that you create. You make this path that Hashem could flow stuff to us. He says v'shomer derech Hashem, they make that path. He says it's like when a person goes from one city to another city, you need a road to transfer. So we're going to start off next week with a fascinating question. I just want to mention the question now because it's a fascinating question. We're going to see that we're sort of dancing on two lines. One hand, we're saying what Hashem gives us is tzedakah, right? Tzedakah means unearned. When you say tzedakah, when you're being charitable to somebody, in the technical term of charity, it means you don't deserve this, but I'm giving it to you. So that's what tzedakah is. When a guy goes and cleans your house, or cuts your grass, or delivers your groceries, you're supposed to pay for it because we got a service. Tzedakah means there was nothing that you did to deserve this, but I'm giving you money anyway. We just said that this is something that we awaken. It's our awakening from below. So why is it called tzedakah? It should be called payment. Hashem should give us our payment. Why is it called tzedakah? That's the question we have. We're going to go into it next week. Why is it called when Hashem gives us the reward? When Mashiach comes, we're getting tzedakah. It should be when Hashem gives us the reward, we get our payment. You work, that's a schar, it's a reward. A reward is the right word. We say the whole idea of schar v'einish, we have schar in the world to come, and that's what it should be called. Schar means reward, like I'm getting paid. It's a reciprocated thing, earned, like sachar, to a salary. But why is it called tzedakah? If it is called tzedakah as a charity and a gift, why does it say we earned it? We awakened it. That's the challenge we have now. And that's what we're going to start with next week. In any case, it's a beautiful letter, but one of the key topics are going to be understanding what exactly is the definition of Olam Haba, to come, and what in the world to come takes place. What could be this great reward that we get? And that's going to be the rest of this letter. So we'll continue. Hashem should bless all of us to have good news. Lag BaOmer is coming up, and more immediately is tonight. The next few days are special days. Tonight is the yahrzeit of the Rebbe's brother. I try and mention it every year and talk about it, and we'll try to get for bringing it tomorrow night, because the Rebbe shared so much about his personal love. The Rebbe had two brothers. One he didn't talk about often; it was more personal and private. One of them was a brilliant physicist and scientist and quantum physicist. I don't even know the right words for it. Brilliant man, and he was also, that was the tip of his mountain. He was a brilliant scholar, off the charts brilliant. Chassidim used to love to sit and talk to him. As a matter of fact, the previous Rebbe had told him once, he was living in Israel, he should go to England and get involved as a professor in the university. He said, let the world know where true wisdom is in the Torah. And he became a professor in Liverpool, I think Liverpool, as there. And then later he passed away, and he's buried in Tzfas, in the military cemetery. Very interesting. And his family in Israel, I forgot her name, Dahlia. I forgot her name. She has a family. The Rebbe always wanted people to give them space, not to. There were certain people he gave instructions to help out the family, be involved. But the Rebbe showed such appreciation. As an example, there was a couple of bacher when I was a bacher, a little older than me. They were in Tzfas, and they went on the day of the Yartzah, Yud Gimel Iyar, tonight and tomorrow, to the grave and said Mishnayos there, said Tehillim, and did some appropriate stuff. They did. The Rebbe gave him such a beautiful thank you. So every year when it comes to, I have to be fortunate that years later I heard this, but I also happened to be in Israel with a trip with teens, and on that day I took them all there. The guy said, "Why are you schlepping him to the cemetery?" I said, "This is the Rebbe's brother. Who's supposed to visit him? Who's supposed to, like today? I light a candle. I tell my kids light a candle tonight. So who's supposed to light a candle with the Rebbe's brother today? We light, on Yigimel Tammuz, Yud Shvat, the Rebbe in the Chaimushka. Who's supposed to light a candle with the Rebbe's brother tonight? So tonight I'm going to make sure to light a candle. I'm going to make sure to say the Mishnayos.
What was his name?
Yisrael Aryeh. A very, very, now it's a given by a lot of people, but it's a very special. Rebbe had a very special relationship. One of the famous videos we all know is when the Rebbe wanted his works to be finished. He was in the middle of writing a thesis when he passed away. And the Rebbe once went to, I think, Professor Green, or I forget who it was. The Rebbe asked his professors by bringing, and so you see the Rebbe's talking quietly on the side of the mic, but everything's picked up. The Rebbe says, I wanted to ask you a favor if you could look through these documents and tell me if you could finish it. The author has passed away. And the person that took it, now he brought it back by the Farbrengen. The Rebbe said, I didn't want to tell you. So the guy said he'll do it. And the Rebbe says, the guy tells the Rebbe, it seems like the author didn't have access to many books because he leaves a lot of references without saying what the references were. The Rebbe says, I didn't want to influence you until now by saying who this author was, but it's my brother. And it would mean I forget the exact word the Rebbe said, it would mean very much to me if you would complete his work. Amazing. The Rebbe personally wanted, what's the point? The guy wrote a thesis. He passed away in 1960s, I think. I don't know what year he passed away.
This professor in Bath spoke about
Imbo, yeah. He said brilliant. He said his work was much more impactful in today's modern quantum physics, everything than anyone knows. He went by sodium, whatever sodium, I don't know how to pronounce it, named Mark Garari. That was his name. He used his pen name, but his real name was Soraya Leib Schneerson. And it's fascinating. So tonight's his yard site, Yud Gimel. So it's always good to do something. Say do an extra tzedakah, learn the little Mishnayos, or say Tillim. So Hashem should bless his neshama, and the Rebbe certainly appreciates us being the ones to take.
If you have children.